people, they will say things in the ether about what they're going to do, and then unfortunately that it gives them some sort of idea that they're working towards it when they're really not. They're just saying it, and it gives them that dopamine that they are doing something when really they're just talking shit.
Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Life Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Smith, and if you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast. And if you're into those podcasts, be sure to go over to my YouTube channel. You'll be able to find a bunch of knowledge bombs there. You can find the links down below. But for today, my friends, one, I have an amazing guest, and two, I'm doing an in-person studio live freaking recording, and it's freaking sweet. So my guest for today, which is way more important than this badass studio, is Shawn Kanungo.
That's right.
Yes.
You got it. First
Shawn,
try.
how are you doing today, my friend?
Well, listen, first of all, I want to say, really appreciate you coming to the studio. This is the Dangerous Ideas studio. So I have my own podcast called Dangerous Ideas, and I thought I'd bring you on here because, I know with all your interviewees, you've had them on Zoom, but I said, I want to look you right in the eye and do this podcast and be on your platform because I really love what you're putting out. And I mentioned this before you arrived, is that I don't think I've met somebody that has more knowledge bombs per sentence than you, like per capita. So it's really incredible to sort of meet you in person. And I'm just excited to be on this pod. And by the way, before I start, man, you are like a specimen. You are like when you walk down the street. I just imagine you in downtown Edmonton here, like you walking down the street. You're like Thor. What's your morning routine, by the way? I just want to know.
Well,
I want a little bit of what you have.
Absolutely. My morning routine is pretty simple. I think that the way that I like the philosophy to be is a harmonious hustle.
Harmonious hustle. Okay,
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So harmonious hustle is an integration of life rather than a balancing act of separate things that we try to juggle.
Okay.
Because the more things that we take on to juggle, the more likely we are to drop them. So if we can decrease the amount of things that we can juggle, so we have lower input, we make sure there's higher output so that we have harmony in between progression and peace.
Love that. So, but what's no?
Oh yeah, right.
What
And then the
are the
routine.
details?
So my routine is pretty simple. Where I just get up at 4, and I've been switching things up.
Okay. You go. All right.
I've been switching things up where I think I'm getting closer to more so working immediately when I wake up.
Okay.
And the reason for that is from a neurological standpoint, we have the opportunity to just go quicker into flow state, and we don't have the cognitive load of the day.
Right.
Weighing on us, because as our day goes, we accumulate more cognitive load.
When I saw you, I knew that you were evolved. So you wake up at 4,
Yeah.
and you immediately start working.
Yes.
Wow.
Or before it would go, wake up at 4, then I would go journal, meditate, breath work, go to the gym, then work. But I find that I really like having my afternoons off,
Yes.
and so I just get up at 4. Or get up earlier, get my stuff done earlier, then I'm done earlier.
Right.
Because I don't want to push it on.
So when are you doing the workout?
5 a.m.
Okay, so you basically wake up, get to work, and then at 5, you get to your workout.
Yep.
And you still meditating, you still doing your breath work,
After the workout.
and you do that every day.
Yep. Because I do a pretty consistent 15-minute increment.
You have kids?
No.
Okay.
No. But I would still follow the same sort of structure because the morning's for me.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens for the rest of the day, I still get things done
Right.
as I go about it.
I knew when I saw you, I said this man definitely wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's doing something. And then, do you like intermittent fast?
I like to consider it more accidental fasting.
Okay.
And by accidental fasting, I mean I really like to work, so I'll just keep on working until I get hungry.
Do you do a cold plunge or something, or do you
Shower in the morning. Sometimes after my workout, I'll do a steam room and then cold.
steam and cold?
Yeah.
I just knew it. I don't know why. I saw you. I said, this guy is evolved.
This guy looks like a freak.
I have more questions later for
Yeah.
your physique and your
sure.
morning routine, but But we came here because you had questions for me, I think.
Absolutely. And the question that I like to start with, that I think is a lot of fun, it's a real thinker, is how do you impact the lives of the people around you?
Yeah, I was ready for this question because I saw you ask your guest this. To be honest with you, this is the reason why I do what I do, is to impact people, is to help individuals see that they can create value in the world, that they can innovate, that they can be more bold. And this is what I've dedicated my life to. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, is to help people see that they can do that. And the greatest pleasure in life that I get is when people send me a message, they send me a DM, and they say, I've started a new project, I've started a new career, I've started a new venture, I've quit my this, whatever it might be, because they're choosing this path of boldness. And that's why I wrote the book called The Bold Ones. That's why I have a special coming out called The Bold Ones. I'm so passionate about this.
Nice. I didn't know you had a special coming out too. Tell me a bit about that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I got a special that's dropping on August 15th on Amazon Prime, Apple TV. It's kind of like a social commentary special on how you can become more of a dangerous person, which basically means how you can be more bold, more innovative, and yeah, super excited about it. It's dropping soon.
I like that. Before, when we decided when we were going to hop on the podcast, obviously had to creep a little bit, that's just the way it goes. Research the guest a smidge.
Yes.
And I had Kenny and Cassius on, and I listened to their podcast, and I liked that it started with, it was going to be dangerous, but your publishers are like, hard no. And I honestly, for me, it resonated the way that you intended when you said it.
Yes.
To me, I was like, yeah, people want to be dangerous. I view it in a part of my philosophy is being a savage servant. Like it's, or like thinking of it from another point of view is the length of peace that Gandhi accomplished, he wouldn't have been able to do without understanding the degree of violence he was capable of.
Right.
Because he mentioned before when he was part of the British military that he believed that he did not do enough.
Right.
And he was like in the military, in the trenches kind of thing. And he still believed, even through peace that he was trying to persevere through, he was like, I still didn't do enough.
Well, listen, I appreciate you seeing that dangerous as a positive, because I was trying to push that with my publisher and my agent. My agent was down for it. My publisher wasn't as down because they thought that people would think that it's like a book about like terrorists or something. And I just love the word dangerous. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love the word bold too. And I've been embodying the idea of the bold ones. And I've definitely taken a liking to it. And, I've definitely, centered my brand around the idea of bold, but I also love the word dangerous. And so, to me, being a dangerous person is like, how do you develop more dangerous skills? How do you become a dangerous person? I love it.
I like it too, because then it's also like an indicator of competency.
Yes.
The more competent you are, the more confident you are, the more confident you are, the more dangerous you are.
Exactly.
Because I also look at it from the point of view of dangerous in the sense of challenging what people just accept.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about is somebody that is willing to stand up against the status quo, the ability to separate themselves from others. That's what I want it to mean. That's what I want dangerous to mean.
I love it. Because I think man, I think it's a beautiful thing, because think of the things that build us into the best character is things that are quote unquote dangerous because there is resistance to it.
Yes.
But then we go through that resistance, and I like to kind of think of it where people view things that are quote unquote dangerous as something that's painful. And I come from the idea, or I have the idea, that pain is the blacksmith that forges us into the ultimate weapon. So no matter what, we're going to be iron ore at the bottom of comfy in the earth. And until there's either by choice or by chance, we're going to end up out of that comfort zone. It's either going to be someone that's digging for us and pulling us out, or it's going to be we're just going to show ourselves off when someone just hits the ground in the right spot. From there, we get melted down, then we get cooled down, we get shaped, we get beaten, we get sharpened, we get heated up, cooled down. And then eventually that iron ore or that human being becomes their own incarnation of Excalibur. So they become dangerous, but it's through that pain and that perseverance, and it comes down to the person wielding that weapon rather than what it is itself.
Right. So how do you experience? Well, like, I want to ask you because how do you accept more pain? Like, how do you embrace the ability to endure more pain? In your opinion,
Expect it.
expect it.
Yeah.
Give me an example of something.
So it's the anticipation of something that is painful. So if there's discomfort, then we apply. So there's discomfort, and then we apply resistance. That equals suffering. If we remove the resistance, there's only discomfort. There's no more suffering.
Right.
So if we expect something to be painful, it's just anticipation. Nobody ever jumped out of the plane like skydiving. People only felt fear leading up to the actual event. They never feel fear when they actually jump. Because that perception of pain goes away. And the same
So what you're saying is that, let's say we want to try something new. We want to try a new venture, that we should expect it to be hard. And that will, because once we're in it, we won't feel the pain.
Correct.
Okay.
Because we expected it. So our expectation was met.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
So if we're expecting things to be easy and they become inevitably not, then it's like, oh my gosh, my whole world's ending.
Right.
But realistically, nothing's changed. It's just our perceptions of it. And our perceptions or our personal realities are what's going to be impacting our personalities.
I like that. Because I always say this when it comes to the bold ones, is that the bold ones are not necessarily the individuals that have like the utmost confidence, that they're not the individuals that have all the answers. They're actually the individuals that are afraid, but they still are willing to step through the darkness, step through the uncertainty while doing it afraid. And I guess the piece that you've helped me understand is that you should expect the uncertainty, you should expect the pain, because once you're on the other side, once you're in the darkness, you're actually not going to feel the pain. I like that.
Totally.
I'm going to add to this.
Yeah, go for it. And so then when we really think about it, it's like, okay, so what is it that stops us from building up that momentum we're starting? And most people would say fear of some sort. But then when we really look at it, fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. It's an acronym.
Right.
And so the fear is always in anticipation. It's never in the actual like doing of it. But it's also, I think it's actually more so less about the fear of failure and more about the fear of what other people are just going to think about us. Because
I believe that is like the biggest fear that people have, which is what will people say.
Totally.
And I've seen so much, especially in my background, being a South Asian, like that's what you hear from your parents is what will people say. That's the greatest thing that holds us back. So totally agree.
That's totally legit. I think it's even heavier. Especially in most Asian cultures, because it's like so close knit.
Yeah.
Like my family, well, maybe minus myself, but for the most part, I'm not like as close knit with my family.
Okay.
So I don't.
But what about your friends? Do you
most of them are supportive, but I'm really specific with the people I spend time with.
You don't look like somebody that cares what other people think. You're just
not too often.
Yeah. You come in. It doesn't seem like that at all.
It comes down to like.
I do. Look at how I look. Okay. I'm wearing a
you're
collared shirt.
Fresh.
I'm wearing a collared shirt. I got a yellow jacket. I got well coiffed hair. I look like somebody that cares about what people think about me.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, I look more like more homeless than that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, but a jacked homeless.
But yeah, for the most part, like I think that there's like the stories and the stories and the expectations that are just put on us through a process of domestication.
Okay, say that again.
So most of the expectations that we try to reinforce
Yes.
are other people's expectations through a process of domestication.
Okay, I'm just gonna put this into ChatGPT like I'm 5 years old.
Fair.
What do you mean?
Fair. So people tell us what to think rather than teach us how to think.
Right.
So when we're told what to think, we're going to live up to that thought. Rather than challenging the thought, we confirm the thought.
Right.
So we fit into what is expected of us.
Right.
Then we feel like we are bound by the banner of defending whatever that particular banner is. And then from there it's just a process of a buddy of mine, Dan, he was on the podcast too, and he says rewilding. So you're taking that domestication, what people tell you to do, your parents, your professors, your premiers, your presidents, your priests, your professors, all these individuals that are authority figures that are telling us what to think. And then eventually we have to take ourselves out of it to understand our own thoughts and how we want to present ourselves to the world too.
But in a sense though, that's very difficult to do because I believe as individuals that we don't really come up with our own desires. There's a concept called mimetic desire, which I actually fundamentally believe in. Great philosopher, historian, his name is Rene Girard, comes up with this idea that as human beings, we're constantly just modeling the behaviors of others. We're looking at a model, we're looking at somebody else and saying, I want that as well. So when throughout our entire lives, when we see people that we admire, people of higher status or you can call it higher status, we're constantly being molded by individuals around us. So how do you step back from yourself and understand what is truly authentic to you? Because what is authenticity? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're constantly being molded by everybody else, how do you know who you truly are? Or does that even exist?
I'm not really. I think that there's a couple thoughts popped up on that one. That was a good zinger. It was just like, but the way I would break it down is the first part I would start with is whether or not someone is feeling fulfilled, if they're feeling inspired, if they're feeling in alignment with their highest priority value in their present reality. So if they feel like they're not satisfied, if they feel pissed off, if they feel ticked off, if they're not emotionally fulfilled or physically fulfilled, then they're just going to feel like trapped. So understanding that feeling and then just knowing that there's an option outside of that. And then from there, I totally agree where I look at it like we're an amalgamation of the individuals that we draw inspiration from. People just need to be very careful about who they want to draw inspiration
100%.
from.
100%.
Because it's like there's very few people, like there's very few folks that are supporting something and then also saying go for it while they're also out of alignment and not pursuing the same thing. So if we're seeing that, we're learning, like if someone is not in alignment, then we're not going to be in alignment. And if we don't learn how to be in alignment from someone that we admire, then we're just not going to do it.
Right.
So I think it's finding that mismatch of values.
Right.
It's like just because someone else has values doesn't mean those values have to be mine as well. I can create my own philosophy or my own values and my own system or code of conduct in order to be able to compare my behavior to it.
Right.
Yep.
So how do you step back and do that?
Journal. You have to think it and ink it.
You have to think it and ink it.
Yeah, man. Because when we have it just floating around in our head, it's on repeat.
Yeah.
And about I don't know exactly the number, but if it's like 40 to 60,000 thoughts per day, or if it's something like 60,000 thoughts per day and 40,000 of those are repeat, or main thing I'm saying is that there's a lot of habitual thoughts.
So how do you journal? You have like Evernote, or you have like a notes app?
Paper, pen to paper.
I saw you and I said, this guy is paper and pen. So you carry around a paper and pen?
I honestly have one in my bag right now, man.
Wow.
Yeah, because I oftentimes take notes when I'm like chatting with someone, but it's a different experience, and I get to like really be in this present moment a little bit.
I see
deeper.
that. Who are you like who are people that you follow? We talked about this. Like, who are people that you follow? You love their ideas, their theories. Like, are there certain individuals that you're following?
Oh yeah.
Give me some.
I'm going to give more context in my thinking process for this too, because I think it's something that a lot of people
don't say something that the audience might be like, this guy is
yeah he's like, surprise. So for more context, I always think of like an idea of mental mentors.
Mental mentors.
Yes. So it's very Napoleon Hill inspired, Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
The idea of mental mentors. And it's actually interesting because he writes in the book that Andrew Carnegie is the one that challenged him to write the book. But there's actually no proof that they ever met.
Oh, okay.
So Napoleon Hill could have had Andrew Carnegie as his mental mentor and was writing a book based off of that inspiration.
Right.
So we can adopt the same
I love
kind of
that
framework.
idea. I love that idea. Yep.
Right? So then I have like two kind of parts where one part is, and this is all just like a mental palace, a mental map. So it's like visualization. And it's coming up with the people that you draw the most inspiration from. And I have it categorized. So I have a business one, a fitness one, a philosophy one, and kind of just characters that are historical, or even alive or dead, doesn't really matter.
Okay.
That I have them just hanging out in my mind, and they are my confidants. So if I find that I'm struggling with with anything, then I've just read enough information about the individuals that my conscious could just create its own variation of what that person would be like.
Okay, so break it down. Who are you following?
So, Alan Watts, for philosophy, very big with that one. Marcus Aurelius.
Yes, Stoicism.
Yeah. For business, Bedros Keuilian's up there.
Okay. Yep.
I admire his ferocity.
Yes.
I'm not as a ferocious of a person. I'm one of those folks that's more like dangerous, but I don't need to like put it out there. He's like, I am dangerous.
Right.
So he's really helpful for business, but also when it comes to me really just having negative self-talk, or if I'm beating myself up, then I just think, okay, so what would Bedros Keuilian say? And then oftentimes I'll just listen to a podcast with him and then visualize as if he's walking next to me. So then it's right in there. So I got Alan Watts, Marcus Aurelius, Bedros Keuilian. Rob Dial's been a huge one recently. Dr. John Demartini.
Okay.
Yeah, really like his style, the way he explains things. I like the combination of things where it's art, science, and magic, where it hits a trifecta of things, kind of like similar to the head, the heart, and the gut.
Yep.
And then it just kind of like flows with that. And then who else do I have there? Then it would go, Miyamoto Musashi, Japanese philosopher.
Okay.
He was a Ronin.
Yep.
He wrote the Book of Five Rings. So I big time chat with him often because he's my visualized future self.
Wow.
Yeah. So the warrior in a garden rather than the gardener in a war.
Okay.
I like that concept.
And then what about throughout history? Historical characters?
Yeah. Miyamoto Musashi, he was like 1900s or something. No, actually, even before then. Sorry. He was a Ronin. He was an actual samurai. And Marcus Aurelius was 2,000 years ago. Alan Watts, I think he passed away in the 80s, something like that.
Okay.
And then how far back does it go? You know what? One that's an interesting one. I would say Hermes Trismegistus. That's about 5,000 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a character. And this is another thing too, is like whether the individual was real or not is irrelevant because the limitation to the consciousness is what we put on it. So Goku's one of from Dragon Ball Z, he's one of my mentors. He's one of the peeps that got me into training. Batman's one of them for my thinking process and contingency plans.
Contingency plans?
Hell yeah, man.
What do you mean?
I'm very chill because I have a lot of plans.
You're very chill because you have a lot of plans.
Yeah. So if there's preparation and anticipation, then it takes away the stress of what if. So I just try to think of as many.
So you have a plan if the world like collapses?
Yeah, man, I got a zombie apocalypse plan. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it because I don't want other people to take it, especially here in Edmonton.
Are you serious?
Hypotheticals.
I don't know what's going on. Wait, so you have like if the world collapses, you have a plan?
For the most part. Yeah. I have like a framework, or I at least know who I would contact.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're very chill because you have a plan.
Yeah,
it's
man.
funny because I'm very chill and I have absolutely no plans.
Fair. I think it's like a combination of the two, because from my interaction with you, I find you to be a very present person. We can only be not chill if we're in the past or the future.
Right.
So the more present we are, the less we're thinking.
Right. And I'm never thinking that much, to be honest with you. No, it's very fascinating. You're a very fascinating person. I know this is your podcast, but I'm just like fascinated with you.
This is great.
Your friends, like the people that you hang out with, are they thinking in the same? Do you have these conversations with your friends?
I have the conversations, and I recognize when they adopt particular parts, but for the most part, I'm a weirdo.
Okay, I love
Yep.
it. I love it.
Yep. I recognize my skill set as a connector and a relationship builder. And I think that collaboration is always going to be better than competition.
Yeah.
Like, there's still collaboration within competition, but at the end of the day, a rising tide lifts all sails or
Right.
ships.
So you're a connector. You're a collaborator. You within your friend group. Are you the person that's like bringing people over to your place? You're hanging.
For the
you're
most part.
philosophizing.
Philosophizing for sure.
That I know.
Yeah.
That definitely I know already. That I get. And then I guess in terms of your work, helping other individuals, like how do you what's your process in helping individuals? Because I know that's a big part of your work.
Absolutely. Starting with like before the process, what I do is I help individuals construct clarity, cultivate curiosity, and captivate the consciousness.
Yes.
And
so let's say I come to you.
Yep.
And I need that.
yes. So I love that context. So let's say, for example, you're like, you don't feel fulfilled in a particular area. It's just because you haven't envisioned what that is that you want to pursue. So what I would break it down as is, what is your highest priority value? What contribution do you want to make to the human race? How do you want to show up better for yourself? And then we would go through what I call the 4 F's of fate. And it would start as the baseline of the pyramid with fitness. Because if we don't have our transportation in this one life, then we're done. Like I was saying to Kendra the other day, it's kind of an interesting. Is my girlfriend.
Okay.
My partner in crime.
Got it.
She's super cool.
I gotta meet her on the pod.
Oh yeah,
I gotta see
Dude.
what she's going on. Okay.
Yeah. Great conversationalist too.
Got it.
Oh yeah, and she's so compassionate. She has like such a big heart too, and she's great with questions.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So the way I would break it down is it would start with fitness. Oh, and then another point that I wanted to make on that one is, if you look at the duration or the lifespan of the universe thus far, and it's like 16 billion or trillion to like 23 billion or trillion, whatever it could be, I think people forget that we've actually experienced not existence more than or longer than we've ever experienced existence.
Right.
And so when I think of that frame where I'm like, oh, this is it. This is like the only thing we got. That's the importance that we have on fitness. So that's why it's the base of the pyramid. So then from fitness, we go finance.
No. So fitness. So then what will you do with people with fitness? You will get them on a routine.
Yes.
You'll get them. Okay.
Dialing in the nutrition, getting those healthier habits in place, but meeting them where they're at with what they want to accomplish. So I don't like the process. I don't like the process where it's like someone comes in and it's a one-stop shop. I like it where I get to speak with someone and say, okay, what is it that you recognize you are most likely to do and unlikely to do?
Okay.
And then we just work with your strengths and then try to eliminate as many weaknesses. People always try to add things. I like to remove things. It makes it easier on the brain to take in.
So the fitness must be very just like basic,
Totes.
just like bench, squat, like a DB pull. I don't know. I'm not
A
like big
DV,
fitness guy.
you got it, man. You're pretty much there.
Okay.
So the way I like going for the lower input, higher output as for the whole philosophy. So I like to break things down to, so if you're coming in, it would be 3 times a week, 30 to 40 minutes, but it would be a full body movement.
Okay, got it.
So that way it's only an hour and a half of exercise per week. So if you look at the span of a week, that's a doable metric.
Right. So that's fitness.
Yep.
Then you move them on to finance.
Correct.
So what do you do with the financing?
Similar thing, because everything's data driven. So there's data collected in the fitness, and the fitness is to create the habit of collecting data, but from a way that they can see the physiological changes, so they attach themselves to progress.
Okay.
So then when we go to finance, it's a little bit more, it's up in the air, it's cyberspace. So it's harder to attach ourselves to the progress when we don't feel it. So I find that a lot of people that struggle with building a business online is that they can't see their work as easily as they can see a studio.
Okay.
Right? And that's why I would say from having mostly Zoom calls to having or seeing like sitting in a studio, it's I don't know where I was going with that one, but that's okay. So it's coming up with the idea of building those habits where it's like, okay, are you tracking things? Are you at least creating some sort of metric? Do you know how much you're spending? And then once that data is collected, coming up, because it builds the foundation, coming up with the objective.
Right.
Then it's breaking that objective down to KPIs, key performance indicators. And then how do we do that? Metrics is, some people prefer a weekly metric, some people prefer a daily. I'm like an every like hour kind of metric kind of guy.
Okay. So
Yep.
so fitness,
Yep.
finance,
Fellowship.
fellowship.
Yep. The individuals that you spend the most time with.
Okay.
Yep. So I break it down from the main point where how's the relationship with the self? How is the fellowship with the self? Can you show up for yourself? Do you trust yourself? Do you have that relationship built up to the point where you have that competent confidence? Are you breaking promises to yourself?
Right.
So it's having that part. Because I find that once the relationship is built up with the self, every other relationship outside of that benefits. Because then we're filling up our own heart cup
Right.
rather than trying to get other people to pour into our cup.
So wait, in this category, will you assess other people's friends or like?
I won't, because I think that would be interesting. Actually, that'd be kind of interesting.
But you're getting them to do that,
Yes.
to reflect on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just breaking it down, like, because I always reinsure the clients. I'm very big with privacy because what I'm discussing with people is stuff
Right,
that's
of
very
course.
difficult and
Of course.
sensitive with it. And so with fellowship, I'm actually honest, or I want them to be honest with me. And I say, like, I'm always going to put you on the right path, and I'm never going to tell anyone else what you talk about.
Yeah.
Unless they give me the okay. And so I ask them, do you feel energized or do you feel drained?
Right.
And that would be the first metric. It's like, you know, when you go to someone's place and you feel the energy is off. And I find that when more people dial in how they can read their energy, then they're more like sensitive to it. And it's like, ooh, I feel yucky here. I feel ick. While right here, I feel excited. I feel wound up, but not in a negative way. So in my point of view, you would be an individual that's good for my fellowship. But that's also like an extension of the fellowship where it's me building up that relationship of individuals that I think are badass because I want to be a badass. So why not spend more time with the people that recharge you and
Love it.
fuel you?
So what's the last one?
Fulfillment. And fulfillment is fulfillment is more ethereal. Because if we look at it from the base of the pyramid, it's objectively important. And as we go higher, it's subjectively important.
Right.
Because nobody can really argue that a healthy fitness physique is going to benefit you and everyone else. Finance, everyone wants to eat. Everyone wants to go on vacations. Then we go fellowship. It has a little bit more like feels. It's subjective. Then fulfillment is very subjective. That is like where people get to really unlock without censorship, their own censorship, the dreams and the vision that they want to accomplish. Like the things that they truly are passionate for, that's where we get to the point of self-actualization. And so this pyramid all envelops self-actualization. It's becoming the person it takes to get the outcome you want.
Yes.
And it's by defining that and creating a vision. So you have the vision, and then you have the character development. So then from the character development, we become the person, and then we are capable of actually getting to where we want to go. So for example, if you're struggling with any of those, I would get you to do your fitness. Pretty simple. Finance, if you're good, cool. If not, then we readjust it. Fellowship, if you're good, cool. Then we don't. And that's another thing too, is we start with the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
We don't have, fitness is usually like a place that most people go to, but some people got it dialed in, but they lack in fulfillment. So then we're going to start with fulfillment, because something that's already working is already working. We don't need to establish more habits on something that's freaking crushing it.
Yeah.
So if we go to fulfillment, then it's like, okay, how is it that we become that person? What is it that you really want to do? And then we just mix around there.
Love it. Well, listen, I got the criteria. This is great. No, I think it's a great, and it makes sense. It's all in alignment, and I can see people getting a lot of value out of that.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. It's pretty cool, man. I dig it. It's like a cool.
Well,
game.
yeah, you should dig it. That's your business. That's why.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah.
You should. Yeah. I love how you're reflecting on yourself. Like, yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to like. I like thinking of it where it's like you say something, reflect. Say something, reflect. Because I want to make sure that I'm intentional with my words.
Yes.
And I'm conscious of them. My thoughts may forget the words, but at the same time, I just want to make sure that I'm just being responsive rather than reactive.
Right.
Because then it's presence.
Yes.
And then there's compassion rather than judgment. Yeah. Yeah, man. Man, you just got me on a whole bunch of things. Hey?
I'm blown away. I'm just fascinated with your life.
Yeah.
I want to just see what you do all day. After this, I'm going to do a deep dive. I'm more of a deep dive, because before this, what I was doing, by the way, in preparation for this pod, I was just listening to a whole bunch of other pods that you were having with other folks. And, but what I should have done is stalked you outside your house and asked Kendra to figure out who you were.
That's totally fair. I do a lot of walking, man. You'd be walking a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's usually how. Okay, going back to the day part, or how my day looks, and I circle back a couple times. I'm sorry about that, but
yeah, you walked like 25 blocks to come here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I'm gonna walk more afterwards. But the way I break it down is like in the morning.
I would have just Ubered it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's totally fair. It's all good.
Yeah.
But in the mornings, that's when I get the projects done, right? That's the tactical stuff that I get the projects done. In the afternoons, I consider my thinking to be the work.
Yeah.
So I have dedicated walking and thinking time. And the reason for that is I like to strategize before execution. So then it decreases the overwhelm of staring at a screen and thinking, oh, I don't know what to do. I go into the work knowing what to do. So I visualize the structure step by step, and then I just go for it.
I'm curious, what's next for you? Like, what are you striving towards? What's the next big mountain that you want to climb, or if there is one?
I got a couple. Because the way I think
you don't have to share it.
I mean, I'll share it. I don't mind at all. Dude, I don't mind at all. This is more conversational. I don't even. You can have the pod too. It's both of our pods.
Okay.
We're sharing. It's cool. But for myself, there's a couple big ones. So the main one that I'm working with right now is basically just developing the consulting business. So I call myself a clarity consultant.
Yes.
So developing the consulting business to be able to just help individuals get that same sense of fulfillment, and then just building that up. But that's that's like a year to 5 years where it's just growth. And that's another thing too, is I always extend the time horizon for things so that I decrease the expectation of having to get it done fast, which decreases resistance. So
right.
There's no suffering. But what I have for about a 25 to 50 year plan, I truly believe that when a city is taken care of, the people will take care of the city. When people take care of the city will take care of the people. And for myself, I'm inspired by people that really help positively impact the city around them rather than just complain about it.
Right.
And I'd rather be a participation in resolution rather than progression of pain. And it's kind of interesting because I don't say really this goal this big, so it's going to be kind of fun. But I'm also thinking that if I say it, then it's going to be something that has to become manifested from this vision because it's becoming more real. So even right now, as I'm talking about it, it is becoming a realistic possibility. It's interesting.
Or is it giving you, sometimes I see people talking about things. I'm not saying this is for you, but like some people, they will say things in the ether about what they're going to do. And then unfortunately that it gives them some sort of idea that they're working towards it when they're really not. They're just saying it. And it gives them that dopamine that they are doing something when really they're just talking shit.
Totally.
I'm not saying you're talking shit. I'm just
agree.
saying that that's what happens with some people. They're passionate about talking about their ideas, but not ultimately executing on them.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you.
So what? And on that note, do you think it's a good idea to share your ideas more openly with others? Because I just asked you what you accomplished, which is kind of like a dick question to ask because sometimes it's good to just keep those things inside.
I think that's totally fair. I would share to the point where I would make sure that sequence where we do get that same satisfaction when someone acknowledges a goal that we have, because then we get that dopamine hit that you're talking about as if we've accomplished it.
Right.
And I think that also takes some self-regulation as well. But this is something I've been also thinking about and working on for the last chunk of time.
Got it.
But then also to add to that too is as I've been thinking of this process, I've also been spending time around the correct people to be able to take my estimated, like, let's say I estimated it would be like, okay, well, given the trajectory I'm on currently and how this would go, I would probably be about 50, 55 years old to be able to accomplish X. And it's having to do with the city. So I'll keep it to myself for that part. But it's having to do with the city. And I want to improve the city and the overall just the economy of Edmonton itself, because I think that Edmonton has that beautiful combination of both industry, progress, but also it's beautiful to be around because we have mostly River Valley. And it's interesting because I find that the people that dislike Edmonton the most are the people that actually grew up here. I'm from the East Coast. So I have a more informed decision of what the two places are like, because oftentimes people just live in the same city and they always just see what they see. They perceive what they see. So if they perceive it in a way that they don't like it, then that's all they're going to see. And our brain's going to wire ourselves to see it. But anyways, so I looked at it like 50 years, and then I started hanging around more peeps that have already done the things I wanted to do. And then I recognized I was walking with Kendra, and I was like, most of my stories start with, I was walking with Kendra.
I love it.
And I found that 50-year mark actually decreased to about 30. So I just understand the characteristics, traits, and what I got to do. Like, I know the steps. It's just where I'm at in this point in time presently. So I'm not anticipating that I'm already prepared for it. I know where I need to improve in order to have the increased probability of the outcome happening.
Love it.
Yeah.
So you're going to run for mayor?
Not for mayor, because I actually have a thought on that one where if I am dependent on external sources to be able to make a decision to improve, I don't like that because I like the autonomy. So as a civilian, if I can just crush it and then just develop myself into a character that is trustworthy in the eyes of the community of Edmonton, of all the tenants of Edmonton, then I don't have to worry too much about becoming a title because I built up the relationships.
Right.
And then I'll be able to do things with much more fluidity with people that I think are better qualified to be able to create policies and change policies and structure outside of there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you're gonna do. Listen,
What's your vision? What's your vision?
I'm for the city or just
Yourself, yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So like I said at the beginning, like I want to be able to impact more people. I want to be able to get people to be more bold, to innovate. I believe in this message so much, and I for me, it's like continuously exploring and experimenting different ways of changing people to innovate and exploring different mediums around it, right? So up until now, like I do a lot of talks, I do a lot of keynotes, I wrote a book, I'm putting out this special. I want to continue that. Like, what are other mediums, whether it's in the metaverse or whether it's through creating my own shows, my own theater shows, or just exploring new mediums of putting out this message out in the world is what I'm passionate about. And so I'm constantly putting things out in the ether that will help me move towards that.
Nice.
And I just want to do that for the rest of my life.
So going from the past or future to the past, I believe that anyone that wants to inspire change, oftentimes their mess is their message. What was that mess that you went through to create that dangerous life?
What was the mess?
Yes.
Listen, I've gone through the pains, the trials and tribulations of working within very large organizations, bureaucracies, hierarchies, and sitting in those boardrooms, watching how people navigated their businesses and their stakeholders, and asking myself the question, there's got to be a better way. And it's not that the people within those boardrooms weren't smart, intelligent. It's not that they didn't see the future. It's like the things that were holding them back were their title, their position, the fear of looking like an idiot in front of other people. There were so many things that were holding them back. And like, just boiling it down to an example, like I remember going into boardrooms where I would pull up a report around how this is going to save them a whole bunch of money or make them a whole bunch of money or protect their citizens, and the only thing that they were concerned about was the grammar, the punctuation within that particular report, and having meetings and meetings around that. And I saw that so many times that executives, they just weren't bold enough to like say, we got to make this decision. Let's move forward. Let's try something new. They always want to resort to something that was very status quo or very traditional. And I saw this time and time again that everyone was shooting themselves in the foot. And so working for a decade plus within these organizations, my mission was like, there's got to be a better way. And I just that was the mess that I saw over and over again, just getting punched in the face and seeing it. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way.
I like that. I like that you took the charge and decided to do something about it rather than just see it.
I had to. I was just so frustrated. That's the reason why I got into this innovation space. The reason why I started to speak on stage and write about this is because I saw this as a mess, and I want to be the one that helped fix it, or try to help individuals see that there's a different path.
I like that. I like that because then you're actually, yeah. I love the ability to be able to just introduce a little bit of a different thought. Because oftentimes I found that most people just need to hear that one sentence heard at the right time from the right person to be able to shift that. And I think like people that want to improve people's lives commonly have the same common denominators, good intentions and being a positive contribution to the human race, which is half of my code of conduct of my existence. And that's what I compare things to. And I think, the good thing with those good intentions, the good thing with understanding the difficulty of something or seeing something in a way where it keeps on perpetuating over and over and over again, I think the more dangerous people that understand their level of dangerousness or their level of danger or their level of boldness, I think that having the opportunity to be able to speak to people and see people and possibly impact someone that could possibly change the trajectory of like civilization is beautiful.
To me, that is the most beautiful thing in the world, is the ability for, my words, my content, my ideas that might hit someone at that particular moment that will change their trajectory and change the trajectory of their business and maybe even change the trajectory of the world. Like, that is the impact of an idea. I've had people come up to me and tell me that they were contemplate, like, I don't see myself as a motivational speaker. I'm talking about innovation, but I guess innovation in itself is motivational. But I've seen people come up to me and say, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I'm going to try and have that difficult conversation with a colleague that I've been waiting to have, or I've been stuck in a rut within my organization, and you gave me permission to go out there and innovate. Or recently somebody told me, like, my wife died, and I was like trying to figure out like why I'm here, and you gave me that inspiration to and that the idea of that we should be continuously exploring and experimenting. And it's funny because it's like just being there at the right moment for their lives, like, it just changed them. And I'm like, to me, it's like, man, I just want to do this forever, right? Not as an ego thing, but as maybe this is how I create value in the world, is by sending this message and being able to hit somebody at the moment that they need it. And you have no idea when that's going to be. So I'm just going to keep shooting my shot to help more people.
I think that luck is an equation between opportunity and preparation.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also think that when it comes to luck, and I say this all the time, is that I believe that content creates luck. So content, it could be through a keynote, it could be through words, it could be through audio, it could be through this podcast, that every time that you put out your ideas in the world, you have no idea about the connections that piece of content might make, who's listening to it, what opportunities or possibilities it will create. And so to me, content is the greatest way of increasing the surface area for you to get lucky.
I totally agree. Yeah, because then you're actually just like, well, it's kind of in that kind of context. If I were to put it into a casino game, it would be closer to blackjack, where you're not just putting all your chips on red and black. You're actually putting it on the numbers.
Yes.
Or not blackjack.
Not blackjack.
Sorry, craps.
Yeah.
Is it craps?
Yeah, it's craps.
Okay, there we go. I obviously don't go to the casino.
No, no.
Yeah. You're like, money. I don't even know what that reference was, man.
No, you're putting it out.
Yeah.
Like, I was just saying this to somebody on my content team. Like, I said, you think about video. Video is so extraordinary in the sense that you create a video, you can put that on all these different platforms. The platforms will distribute that wherever, and somebody around the world can pick up that piece of content and generate value from it. And by the way, that video also compounds in the sense that year after year, like somebody in like 4 or 5 years can fall upon that video and then create value. Like, what?
It's a ripple.
What other asset can do that?
100%.
It's just incredible. So I'm like, I just want to continue to do this. It's incredible.
Totally. Well, it's kind of crazy to think of. Like, it really is actually kind of crazy to think of. Like, right now is the time where we get to expand thoughts and ideas further than any other point.
Yep.
And if we're still getting information from the Stoics 2,000 years ago, and
which is not a bad thing.
But yes,
it's not a bad thing.
But what I'm saying is, like, that's 2,000 years, and that was with their degree of technology. We have more technology, so we can have this 6,000, 10,000 years from now.
Yeah.
Given that, the planet doesn't explode or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think
at least you'll be prepared, but yeah.
Yeah. I think another thing too is, like, when people, I found for myself that there's been a couple times with if it weren't for media, I wouldn't have figured some things
give
out.
me an example.
So it's if there was something I had a thought, and usually it was sort of just a thinking of my thinking kind of process. So for that particular example, I had a thought, and I'll go with the context, and then if a thought comes up, then I'll go with it. But I had a thought, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty interesting thought. And then I find when I was like on the YouTube, sometimes something pops up, and it's something that I haven't heard before, but it's something that was said like years ago. So let's say Alan Watts said something, but I learned or thought of it beforehand, but then I heard it from someone else. And then that gave me permission to feel not satisfaction, but peace with my thought, because I didn't think I was crazy.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Totally.
Okay, cool. Because I think that it's when we're challenging our thoughts too, challenging our thoughts is which thoughts are quote unquote original, which I don't think many thoughts are. There's like that saying where anything said after Aristotle has already been said, or Aristotle has already said everything, kind of thing. So everything's just regurgitated and repeated. And I think that there is information that we just inherently like intuitively know, where it might pop up in a flow state. And we're like, oh, there's like an answer to the universe. And then we hear it from somewhere else. It's like, oh, there's more to that thought than I actually thought. So then you can dive further into that, because if someone else is sharing a similar thought, but it's like, could be very, it could challenge your own perceptions. And some people are scared of challenging their perceptions, so they don't want to venture into a particular thought.
Right.
So I think that when other people are actually talking about what they had done or thought that was like Alan Watts or Marcus Aurelius or whoever, and then it's like, wow, this is my internal dialogue. It's like, I'm actually not as dumb as I thought.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you also, though, you have to recognize that it's actually important to understand where the message or who is actually delivering the message. Because if you have like a Joe Blow on the street saying the same thing and that validates your thoughts, you're not going to feel that comfort. It's only because Aurelius said that and he's coming from a point of high status that you're like, yeah, okay, that validates my thought. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like if the homeless guy was like, hey, I don't know, fasting is great. That's because he's probably fasting. It's just not going to hit the same thing when David Goggins is like, hey, fasting is great. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
We sometimes just like, we validate our ideas based on people that are high status in our mind.
Totally. And then in my mind, that's observing it from a place of subjective infatuation rather than objective observation. So that would be...
I'm always looking at him like, can you explain this to me like a 5-year-old?
Yeah, that's totally fair.
I'm an idiot. You got to reckon I'm an idiot. Okay, so like I listen to people like you or Sam Harris or Jordan Peterson, and I don't understand 50%. I need like a co-pilot right beside me to dissect what you just said. That's why I said that you drop more knowledge bombs per capita, because I got to slow it down. You're the only person that I got to listen to a podcast at 0.75 speed because I needed to slow it down for myself, okay? Everyone else I'm listening at 2 speed, okay? You're at 0.75 speed. So it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Yeah, I accept that compliment, and I appreciate it very much. It's gonna go with me for the rest of the day.
Okay, great. Explain it.
Yes.
What you were saying.
So it goes to the part of confirming our thoughts. So if we're confirming our thoughts, we're going to find the things that are biased towards what the outcome we want is, rather than objectively observing things to be able to, rather than objectively observing things to see what is, rather than what we want to see. So people can perpetuate, or they can just find information that solidifies the limitations they want to fight for.
Right.
And I believe that if people fought for what they want as hard as they fought for their limitations, the world would be completely
100%.
different. So when it comes to the difference between where that information comes from, it's mental nourishment. It's you're controlling the information and the content you're consuming. So we still choose to go to McDonald's, but it's not going to be as nourishing. We can still choose to watch content that we know pisses us off or ticks us off, and it's not nourishing. We can cook our own meal and have it fresh and delicious and beautiful and vibrant, and that'll nourish us. We can also watch content that'll nourish the mind.
Right.
So I think it comes with the ability to be able to differentiate what you want to be the truth and what could be more likely to be the truth.
I recently come up with a concept. I think you'll enjoy it. It's called intellectual Ozempic.
Oh.
And Ozempic is the drug that like basically prevents you from eating. And I really believe that you are what you consume. And I think you are an example of intellectual Ozempic because you're doing this breath work, you're doing this meditation, you're going for these long walks, you walk 25 blocks to come here, and you're not putting crap into your mind. You're literally being very particular about what you are putting in to your mind, and you're being you're not bloating it with unnecessary information. And I can see the reason why you are a clarity consultant, the reason why you are clear, the reason why you are present, the reason why you are who you are is because you have been practicing intellectual Ozempic, and you're an example of it.
I really like that. I'm going to steal it.
Please.
Intellectual Ozempic.
Intellectual Ozempic, yeah.
Intellectual Ozempic.
It's to fight, actually, intellectual obesity, which is just filling your mind with useless content.
Totally. I love that because I've described it before, but now I have a name for it.
Yes. You can just put Shawn Kanungo on that.
Yeah, LTM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be freaking sweet.
But no, I see, my problem is I love content. I love understanding. I just love people. I have this hunger, this curiosity to understand people, concepts, technologies, new things. Like I love it. But at the same time, I know that by filling my mind with this information, I'm not doing, I'm not able to come up with my own creative ideas. I'm not able to spend time. I don't know, just thinking, creating. I'm always just filling my mind up with stuff because I love it, but it's an addiction. You know what I mean? And I'm doing it not out of entertainment. I'm doing it because of, at some point it is entertainment, but like I'm doing it because of curiosity. So I do have to like stop myself and say, hey, take this time to be creative. Take this time to stop and meditate around what you thought about, which is really important. But yeah, it's just a battle that I have because I want to be relevant and current and have new ideas. But at the same time, I want to be creative. You know what I mean? Like, so It's a constant struggle. So the intellectual Ozempic is a very important concept for me because that's what I want to take it. I want to take that intellectual Ozempic. I want to put it in my mind because it's important.
I like that. I like that quite a bit. I find similar thing too where it'll come back down to intentions as well. Is it like, are you distracting in destruction? Or is it like you said, it's not through entertainment, just entertainment, it's also education. So it's edutainment. So you have the combination of the two. I think many people just mindlessly go into it rather than mindfully go into it.
Right.
So if they're consuming content, you have the intention and the differentiation between, am I just like am I doom scrolling or am I like actually picking up ideas? Am I being inspired? Is there a takeaway that's actually constructive in application?
Yeah, it's hard too because sometimes you go into something you have no idea if it's entertainment. Most of the time it's probably just entertainment. It's not helping you in any way. So I got to be better at it. It's just not. It's not a good thing.
That's fair. I think it's pretty deep. I think that's an absolute fantastic way of going about it. But my friend, I have two questions that I always end podcasts with.
Okay. I didn't know that you had questions. We were just going back.
Only two.
Okay.
Only two. But is there, out of curiosity, before I ask the questions though, is there anything that has been unsaid that has to be said?
Well, we didn't talk about your beard, so I mean that in itself has not been brought up. But how do you maintain that?
I comb it.
Okay.
I have a brush. One's a wood brush. I have a boar brush. I have a couple brushes.
Okay.
And then some oil in there. It's good.
I like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it keeps it fresh. It's a little bit long right now, but I trim it up when I need to. And usually it's when the mustache gets over top of my lips. That's the indicator of trimmage.
Okay, good. Now, and the other thing is that you're a clarity consultant, and you observing me from whether it's social media and now, give me some advice. I need some advice. Like, you're a clarity consultant. Give me some harsh advice and do it on the pod.
If I were to come up with harsh advice, I don't really have harsh advice. I'm pretty like chill. But if I were to come up with a point, the piece of advice that I would go with is create yourself more unrealistic goals with realistic expectations.
Unrealistic goals with realistic expectations.
Correct. Because you've done some solid shit, but you can still do more shit. And there's just like there's little skills and tactics that you can just decrease or automate, eliminate, or delegate entirely to be able to fast track what that possibility could be. I find that most people are just, if I were to come up with just a flat one, most people are not dreaming big enough. They're dreaming to the point of their limitations. They're not seeing or envisioning a possibility or a potential. I think that if someone has a 1% chance of possibly happening, it's better than a 0% chance, so why not pursue it?
Right.
And with people that are ambitious, driven, and focused, there's just the point of thinking bigger.
Yeah.
Think broader. And we have examples of that. Like, you can think of like Elon Musk style thinking, where it was nothing more than a vision. Anything he's ever done. So people just need to see the possibilities of what they could do even bigger than they think of themselves.
Yes.
And even others as well. If you think like, one of my mental mentors, like Tony Robbins. If you think of like Tony Robbins as like the dude that is the life coach of like bajillions of people, he's still able to challenge even further past that. I'm learning what he learned. I'm learning now what he learned later, so I can condense the time span to be able to accomplish more in my lifetime.
Right.
You can do the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's always it's such an important piece of advice, because I think we always can be striving for more unrealistic goals and having those realistic expectations. And you know, there are some goals, like I was talking to a friend the other day, there are some goals that I want to reach, but it's like, you know, sometimes you're like, I don't know if this is the right time yet, or this is, you know, if I should, you know, make the move right now. But you should always strive towards that. And I know, you know, I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to flex that boldness muscle. I literally wrote the book on it. So it's a muscle that you build. Like, you can't, to me, it's like you can't overshoot right away. You can, but it's more difficult to, it's just more difficult. It's like an out of body experience for you to reach an unrealistic, crazy goal, right? You should continuously just work on harder things so that you can eventually hit that. I don't know. That's how I look at it.
I completely agree. Because I think
otherwise it's going to be an out of body experience. Like, you're going to be completely in the wilderness.
Absolutely. I really like that, because then having that vision and having that broadness, I had a thought and just fluttered away. Right. So I completely agree with the boldness being a muscle that could be flexed and worked on. I think stretching that cognitive capability, like that thinking process, and thinking, even working, like pushing further into fear, kind of like exposure therapy.
Yes.
So it's kind of like exposure therapy where we're bold enough to face the fears. When we face the fears and we can name the fears, then we get rid of the fears. And so it's just a process of, I think that success is just an elimination of all of the things that make us feel inadequate. And then it's just becoming better through that process. And I think boldness is the best way to build mental biceps.
Exactly.
Going for my alliterations.
No. That's exactly it. That's how I actually frame the idea of boldness. It's the ability to, if you go to the gym, you can't go once and then say that you're a gym enthusiast. You have to be able to go every single day, and you build those muscles up slowly so that eventually you actually associate yourself to, in this case, being a fitness enthusiast or being bold. So it's So I look at boldness as very similar to being sort of in the gym.
Nice.
So yeah, what was your second question?
First question, actually.
Oh,
that
okay.
was the first question
okay.
out of the
Sorry.
two. That was my third last question, just to make sure I didn't miss anything that could be cool. The first question is a pretty sweet one. This is my first time getting asked this in person too, so it's kind of fun. I got to feel the vibes. But setting the scene is at the end of your days, you're on your deathbed. None of your content exists. Your book doesn't exist. Nothing. What is the last thing that you want to pass along? What is the last tip, the last message that you want to pass around to the people that are around you?
That you will die as well. It's a good reminder that you will die as well. And I think it's a great reminder that life is short, that we are a speck, that there's been 192,000 years of human beings on this planet, trillions of galaxies, other life forms everywhere, that you are a speck in this world. And yes, you will one day die. And I want to look at somebody when I'm on my deathbed in my last breath and say, this will happen to you too. And it's the greatest reminder that you should just do what you want to do in life. Be bold, innovate, try new things, create value in the world, because yes, you will die, and it will probably be soon.
I like that. That's a great one. Now I just imagine you laying there. It's like, you're next.
That's exactly it. You're next, motherfucker. Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
The final question. The very best version of you is sitting right next to you. Instead of me, it's the very best version.
No,
of you that
I
you can
think
envision.
you're the next best version of me. I look at you. You're the next best version of me. Yeah. But
Fair
go
enough.
ahead.
Fair enough. So that Shawn is sitting next to you right now and gives you a piece of advice for this season of your life. What is that piece of advice he gives you?
I think it probably is two things. Number one, it's practicing more mindfulness and clarity, which is very important, and intellectual Ozempic, and just actually practicing that. That's A. And B, being very intentional about everything that you're putting into your body, because I think diet is like 90% of it. So being very intentional about what you put in your body, because as I get older, like I'm 38 right now, I've got 3 kids. So being very as I age every single year, I know that I have to spend an exponential amount of time on my fitness and my health, and put what you put into your body is just like number one. So just being very diligent on that.
Nice. Well, folks, thank you for this very, very special episode where it's actually in person. And if you can, be sure to share it out to your friends. Put it onto your Instagram. Tag myself at DapperDudeKyle. Shawn, where can people find you?
Listen, don't find me, okay? Whatever you got to do with this podcast, rate, follow, like, subscribe to this podcast on YouTube, on wherever you're listening to this, because Kyle is putting in the work, okay? He's putting in the work, and I need you to appreciate that. And then once you do that, once you're finished with that, then you can find me. I'm at Shawn Kanungo everywhere. And please give this man some love.
Awesome. Well, folks, as I always say at the end of the podcasts, keep up the kindness, and I hope your day treats you as good as you look.
Peace.